Hello everyone. Um we're here. Welcome. I was gonna say welcome back, but this is the first one of these, so I suppose not welcome back. Welcome to talking about things but in bed. Because I don't know, apparently I hate myself because this obviously is just going to be way harder to... The audio is just going to be a mess because of the ruffling in the bed, but I'm hoping to try and negate that some way. And without the stand, I'm not entirely sure how this is going to sound. If it's going to sound terrible or good or what have you, somewhere in between. We are yet to find out. That's going to be quite loud, I think. So again, apologies if this doesn't sound very good. You know, we'll figure it out. It's all a process, wouldn't you say? I had this idea to do, like, smaller videos of talking about, like, specific topics. Obviously, like, the podcast every week. But I think it's a good idea to not get too, like, overzealous with that and just stick to doing that every week, instead of, like, getting overexcited and, like, doing loads of them. So I've decided to do shorter videos in between talking about specific little topics instead of me rambling on for over an hour. I am quite ill at the moment. I wanted to record this a few days ago, but I was just too ill, so I think that kind of also makes the whole being in bed situation feel a bit more appropriate. I thought it'd be kind of funny, I think. I don't really know why I've decided to do this. I hope my voice sounds a bit gruffer and maybe I sound more like an alpha than I usually do. And a man can dream, I suppose. I have no idea how this is going to sound, like I said before, because I'm just shuffling about all the time. And this, obviously, I'm holding the mic instead of having it in a stand, so we'll obviously see. Hopefully it's fine. But without further... Oh, God, I don't feel very well. Maybe it wasn't a great idea to record this after all, but, you know... We're here. I think we should just get into it. I was going to talk about last night in Soho. This time, which I've watched recently. And I wanted to just talk about my thoughts and feelings on it. And yeah, so let's hop straight into that. Let me just have a sip of this water here, quick. Cheers. Oh, I do wonder how this is gonna sound, if it's gonna sound terrible. It'd be fun if this one is the one to hit the algorithm. And this is just, like, kind of my legacy forever now. I suppose, you know, only time shall tell, but, let's get into... Oh, shit, this cable isn't all that long. I can't really move that much as it goes. Yeah, last night in Soho, where to start? It had been on my radar for a really long time. I have a lot of respect, for Edgar Wright. I think he's a great director. Baby Driver is an incredibly great, like, well-directed film. It's very he's a very, like, stylized director. He does like, very, I don't know, he has a very distinctive style that you can kind of spot from a mile away with Baby Driver and Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, which are two really great films. I'll cut that out. That hurt. But I hadn't seen it for a while. I think obviously it's a few. Oh my god, next door just started doing construction, so I really hope you can't hear that, like, low droning in the background. Oh gosh, if that is the case, I'm gonna be so fucking annoyed. I'm hoping the audio quality might sound a bit better, because it's like, it's a smaller room, so we'll see. What was I saying? Sorry, I'm a bit preoccupied. We found out this morning that we're getting kicked out of our flat because it's in such an unlivable condition. So I'm a little bit preoccupied with that, but we'll truck on, you know. So I hadn't seen. I knew about Last Night in Soho before it released. Because I was super into Edgar Wright at the time, and I was like monitoring his upcoming releases. So I was aware of it, but then I think when it came out, I think I'd just gone to uni, and obviously I was just quite busy then, and I didn't really have time, and I kind of just like my priorities changed, and then and then I kind of just like slipped my mind, honestly. Like I wouldn't even say like I stopped watching movies, because I've always watched a lot of movies, but I just didn't really. I just kind of forgot about it until like last week, where, you know, we hopped on ITVX, and it was there, and I was like, shit, let's watch that. So we watched it. I knew that. Before going in, I knew that it was like a box office like failure, and it didn't earn much. Well, it made a loss, and people definitely had mixed feelings about it. But I went in with an open mind. I really thought that it could have been something incredible. I love Edgar Wright, and you know, I trust his vision. I mean, I trusted his vision. I'm not sure I would say the same now, but yeah, so it's you can tell that it like it definitely is very stylized, but it's not in quite the same way as his previous films. It takes itself a lot more seriously than something like even like Baby Driver, which is like quite, you know, a serious film. It's still a little silly, goofy, and great film. It's a shame that it's a real shame that it has two paedophiles in it, though. Well, they were doing something dodgy. They were bad guys. So that's a shame. So it's kind of tarnished the legacy of that film a bit. But you know, it is a good film. It's still a great film. Apologies for these coughs. I'm gonna cut them out. If I remember to, which I probably won't. So I went in understanding this stylized thing, although it takes a more mature tone, even if some of the stuff is heavily stylized, and you can tell that it is an Edgar Wright film from a lot of the stylization and uses of color and like the integration of soundtrack, which he is famous for with both Scott Pilgrim and Baby Driver. They famously both have like very well integrated soundtracks into those movies, and this is no different. The soundtrack is great, and it visually looks really great. I'm not sure that an average viewer, if you didn't go into it knowing that it was written and directed by Edgar Wright, I don't think you would have known by just watching the movie. Because it's just completely different from his other films. It starts off as almost it starts off really intriguing, because it kind of like portrays itself as this almost like it's going to be like a coming of age tale about a girl going to university, and you know, I feel like any film that like includes student halls and just like the university lifestyle, I'll immediately be like somewhat invested, because it's like I have a level of nostalgia for that, I suppose. But with that being said, it obviously does not go that way. If you've seen the film, you know. And then it's probably like half an hour into the movie, we get introduced to Anya Taylor-Joy's character, Sandy, through like a dream sequence, which is again, just visually looks really incredible. And there's this like big, it's very mysterious. One sec, let me just have a sip of my ear water. Can you hear that? Construction sound? I hope you can't, because it's pretty really annoying. Oh God, I look fat like this. Look at that, bro. That's double chin town. You fucking can't you? You can definitely hear that. That's gonna be annoying. Maybe I'll try and cut that out. I don't really know a lot about post. I don't really know a lot about editing audio, so we'll see about that, but who knows. So yeah, there's this really interesting, visually at least, section where Anya Taylor-Joy's character is introduced, and it's really beautifully shot. It just so beautifully like flows through this environment while she interacts with all these different characters, and it just feels very natural, and it kind of feels like we are the main character, who's like kind of witnessing this as we're witnessing it, which I think really comes through and is really impressive. And it also adds this great mystery as to like what the actual fuck is even happening, because you obviously think it's a dream sequence, but then it turns out that I can't remember the main character's name. It turns out that she's got a like hickey where Matt Smith gave Anya Taylor-Joy's character a hickey, so it's like shit. So there's like, you were kind of right. It's kind of integrated. So that adds this cool layer of mystery for sure. But then it kind of just goes off the rails from there. Like, I was so like bought in visually as well. It just looked so incredible. But then it kind of, about the halfway point, it kind of, I was a bit like, okay, we'll see. And then by the third act, I was like, fuck this film, man. This sucks ass. Which probably wasn't just, but that was what I was feeling at the time. So our main character kind of like starts to lose her fucking mind a bit, and these dream sequences that she experiences when she's asleep kind of start integrating into her everyday life and affecting her relationships and the people around her. She almost stabs almost stabs her old flatmate, who like is a bit, you know, she's not particularly nice, but she didn't really deserve to be stabbed in the face. So that was quite like a shock, and like you're kind of thinking, oh, so like, is she just having a mental breakdown, or you know, did I just mute that? I accidentally pressed a mute button there. Maybe this is why it's not designed to be held. Big chode mic. I am fully clothed under here, by the way, guys, just to let you know. This is no naked cast. I'll do that for the 10 mil special. But yeah, what was I saying? Oh god, just fucking move flat. And sorry, this probably wasn't a good time to record this at all, but you know, we're here and we're gonna make it work. So we're getting into, her, like, kind of losing her mind, and it's all kind of a mess, and she has this kind of relationship with this boy who I've also forgotten the name of, and they're, like, hanging out, and he's, like, extra lovely for no reason, really. And he should have definitely, because obviously, like, if this situation happened in real life, it's like, yeah, call her, like, caregivers, I mean, her mum's dead, but get the fucking nan on the phone, because you can't really, like, if this situation was happening in real life, it's like, yeah, well, you probably need to go home. Also, because her mum there's a bit, her mum, like, kills herself, not on screen, but it's established that she moved to London to be a fashion designer and then ended up ending her life. So her nan's, like, well worried that she's going to do the same, rightfully so. So I feel like the people closest to her in London when she moved should have probably said, what's your nan's phone number, by the way? Because we should probably give her a call. Is this a good angle, guys? Do you like this? I like it. It's very cool, isn't it? Sorry, I'm wriggling about like a little snake up in this. But but like their relationship is very like surface level. It's a bit boring, really. Nothing really interesting happens. It's just like typical like thriller love interest where he doesn't really do anything. He kind of is just there for, well, he's not really there for any particular reason at all. He's just there. So I suppose just to push the plot forward a little bit more, even though he doesn't really do that. There's one scene where he goes back to her flat and they kind of have, and then like some weird shit happens. So I mean, if he wasn't in the movie, then I suppose that part of the plot would have had to come about a different way. But generally, he's kind of nothing. He's not really a character. He's kind of a placeholder. But you know, he's inoffensive enough that it never becomes like an issue. You know. But they're like kind of like trucking about. He's ignoring all these red flags and not doing anything to help her, and instead kind of just like enabling her, which obviously, like, it turns out that she wasn't having a mental breakdown, but like in a real life setting she was. Cheers. So if this was real life, he would have needed to get a hold of someone that is like more responsible for her in that situation. But you know, I am able to take a little bit. I'm allowed to like hold my disbelief a little bit when it comes to like a thriller, a mystery thriller. It says on Google, it says it's a horror, but it's not a horror. Nothing really close to horror actually happens. It's very like it's like a child-friendly thriller pretty much, apart from like a couple of scenes where it's like pretty, it's not like gruesome, it's more like the implication of like sexual violence is quite harrowing, especially especially could be for like a younger viewer. But the final like crescendo is really where it all fell apart. Oh, actually, before we get there, I'd like to just talk about the police officer guy. Like, there's a creepy old guy who's just like hanging around Soho, and obviously the whole audience and the main character think it's Jack, who's like the big dickhead from times past who like fucked with Sandy, Anya Taylor-Joy's character. and like killed her. Well, that's what the main character thinks happened. And there's this old guy who she's like confident that is him. But then it turns out that he's like a policeman and he was like working on the case, which makes no fucking sense. Like, it's obviously supposed to be this cool like bait and switch, but he was a fucking creepy weird old guy like the whole movie. So having him just be like, oh no, he was actually the good guy all along, guys, just felt so unsatisfying and like a cheap what, oh my god, what's it called? Like a cheap twist to make, because it didn't feel, it felt like there was like a good twist always makes you think like, yes, that kind of makes sense, but this just made no fucking sense at all. And then you have the main like crescendo of the movie where Eloise, that's her name. Eloise is like, I fucking need to go home to Cornwall now because I'm getting fucked up, and her male friend is like, oh yeah, I got a car, I'll drive you. We're in North London. It will only take like fucking 12 hours, which I thought about in the time like as pretty ridiculous, but in hindsight, it's kind of like, okay, that kind of makes sense. Like, if you ignore the fact that they haven't known each other for a very long time, I know that if I like cared so deeply about someone, I would do the same. Like, I would massively inconvenience myself by like driving across the country, or a variety of other things. Sorry, I'm so distracted by the fact that we have to fucking move out of this flat. Oh god. I'm gonna stop talking about that now. I'll just moan about that in the podcast on Monday. But for now, we're gonna keep trucking on. And then so they're like, yeah, let's go back to Cornwall, because my brain's in pieces. But of course she's like, well, before we go, I need to go get my stuff from my flat where all these weird dreams and shit started. And of course there's no issue with that at all. Like, the guy's like maybe we can go home and get your nan and maybe come back at a different time to get your stuff, instead of going into what is clearly a very difficult place for you to be, where you've tried to kill someone else, and, you know, your life could be very much in danger. But, you know, she goes in to get some stuff. She's like, oh, if I'm not back in 15 minutes, come in, because, like, something bad's happened. She goes to, like, the landlady who lives downstairs in the building, and she's like, oh, yo, I'm sorry, car, but, I'm leaving. I know I said I wouldn't do this, but like, this shit is fucked up, bro. And then again, another twist. This one maybe a little more forgivable, although that explanation for it doesn't make any fucking sense. The old lady, the landlord, is Sandy after all. What the hell? Oh my god. And at this point, Eloise thought Sandy was murdered by Will Smith's character. Not Will fucking Smith, Matt Smith. I don't know if I said Will Smith earlier, I meant Matt Smith. But it turned out that Sandy was actually kind of a serial murderer. And the old woman is Sandy. And it's kind of like a slay baddie moment, because it's like, okay, yeah, well, she killed all these men, but all these men were, like, really awful creeps who were taking advantage of her, or, like, were trying to take advantage of her. So them getting murdered is kind of like, yas! Which, that is, like, an isolated twist is kind of epic source good time, but then, obviously, the movie can't just end there, so it's like, oh, But no, I've got to kill you, Eloise, because you've come too close to the truth. Which kind of just puts several fucking holes in Sandy's character as being this kind of like, this kind of like bad bitch who's protecting herself. I mean, maybe it does make sense. I just thought it made her. I think it made her character just too complicated and just more of like a standard like she's the baddie now when she was never really the baddie. And I think it could have done with a bit more subtlety and a little more nuance in the sense that they could maybe just try and have the viewer decide, instead of it being like, well, you're gonna think this way, I'll have but so that really sucked and that really put a sour taste in my mouth, and then she just stabs her like male friend as well, which I thought was so odd because it's like, okay, now you really are just killing everyone, bro. Like you're not the good guy anymore. You just stabbed this poor like teen in the gut, left him in a burning building, and he gets out and he's fine. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that would be the case, but I don't like how trivialized and like just standard it became near the end. It just wasn't very exciting anymore. It wasn't doing really anything to challenge the status quo, which obviously not every movie needs to do. But I think with Edgar Wright's previous films, cheers. Just spill a big glob of water on the floor. I think with Edgar Wright's previous films, they either had a more straightforward plot. Well, I think they all kind of did, so it never you never ran into this problem of like, well, this doesn't make any fucking sense anymore. This is kind of just turned into a bunch of bullshit, which is pretty much what happened with Last Night in Soho. So, in the future, if he ever gets funded to make another film, which who fucking knows, he probably will, he's quite a famous director, then he probably is best off doing a simpler concept, or fleshing out the story a bit more, and not just sticking to like generic stereotypes and caricatures instead of like interesting characters. And I'm not really saying, I mean, all of his characters in all of his films have been like caricaturistic. Is that a word? Who knows? Before, but it kind of worked because it was in a more simple narrative instead of this kind of like fantasy time skipping setting where it just ran into a lot of problems with characters' motivations not being nearly clear enough and having characters just do things. It sets up like their motivations and you're like, okay, yeah, makes sense. But then it's like, well, if that was their motivation, then what the fuck are they doing now? Like, it makes no sense. So it's not really that clear. I don't know. It kind of, it's one that's probably worth watching on the account of it just looking and sounding great in the first, like 80 minutes probably. It's all pretty good. So I'd probably give it like 6 out of 10. 3 stars, because there is like enjoyment to be had. It's just the plot kind of falls apart and isn't that great. And if you're watching it for the story, then it's like you are probably going to be disappointed unless you go in knowing that it's kind of generic and does not at all in any way stick the landing. And I think that's about it for that, so I'll wrap this up quickly. Yeah, this was just a quicker one, even though it ended up being over half an hour. Although it'll probably be a little less by the time I cut it down. So yeah, I'll probably do this midweek between the podcasts again. I don't know if I'll lay in bed again. This has actually been just way more uncomfortable than sitting at a desk, so we'll see about that in the future. I'm going to a flat viewing this afternoon, so we'll see how that goes. And until I see you until Monday, where I'll see you on the podcast. Have a good time, have a good weekend, and it's been fun as always. I'll see you later. Ending now.